Welcome to SATV News. This is Anaf Hussain with our headlines. 13th National Parliamentary Election and Referendum tomorrow. Nearly 1 million law enforcers deployed across country. Transparency remains cornerstone of EC's election management, says CEC Nasir. Reaffirms commitment to peaceful, credible elections. DNP confident in forming government alone, Tariq Rahman tells DW. Now in details. Bangladesh is gearing up to hold its 13th general election tomorrow, the first since the 2024 uprising that toppled longtime leader Sheikh Hasina's autocratic regime and forced her into exile. More than 157,000 police officers backed by 100,000 soldiers and thousands of other security personnel deployed across the country will guard Thursday's vote, in which nearly 127 million people are entitled to cast their ballots. Security cameras have been installed in more than 90% of 299 constituencies. Voting in one of the 300 constituencies has been suspended due to the death of a candidate. Separately, more than half of the country's 42,000 polling stations were flagged as vulnerable to violence. Thousands of people, including factory workers, were seen returning to their home constituencies, as there will be restrictions on public vehicles on the voting day. The election rush has caused traffic jams on some key highways connecting Dhaka and other parts of the country, local media reported. Bus terminals and railway stations across the capital were crowded with homebound passengers, many traveling to cast their votes and spending time with family during the extended holiday. The exodus intensified as thousands of garment workers from Gazipur's industrial zone started leaving early today after factories shut in line with the government directives to facilitate voting in 13th National Parliament election and the referendum. Industrial units in Gazipur, Tongi Chaurasta, Konabari and Sripur were closed, prompting long queues at bus stands along the Dhaka-Maimansingh, Dhaka-Kishoreganj and Dhaka-Tangail highway. Men and women were seen standing in lines for hours amid severe congestions, reports our Gazipur correspondent. Chief Election Commissioner A.M.M. Nasiruddin today reaffirmed their unwavering commitment to deliver a peaceful, credible and participatory election. He said this while briefing international election observers and foreign journalists at a hotel in Dhaka. The CEC said transparency in the voting and counting process will be ensured. Voters, irrespective of gender, age or background, are encouraged to participate freely, he said. The CEC said ballots are issued only after proper identification. Voting is conducted in secrecy in accordance with the prescribed rules. Any electoral dispute will be addressed strictly in accordance with established legal and constitutional procedures, he added. Transparency remains a cornerstone of our election management, he said, adding that approximately 330 international observers and more than 160 international journalists are independently covering the elections. Nasiruddin said that from the very first day of his commission's journey, they have prioritized transparency. Members of the European Union's election observation team have inspected the electoral environment in Madaripur. They visited various upazilas since morning. The EU members spoke to the presiding officers, the Election Commission and the returning officers. At the same time, they inquired about the various centers and voters. The EU member expressed satisfaction during this time. Besides, they assured all kinds of cooperation to make the election fair and free. They will submit a preliminary report on February 14 after the election and the full report 2 months later. 25 candidates will contest the election in 3 parliamentary constituencies in Madaripur. The returning officers has declared 224 of the 381 polling stations in the district at risky. BNP Chairman Tareq Rahman has expressed confidence that his party will be able to form the next government independently following the upcoming national election. In an exclusive interview with DW, Tareq said he believes the BNP will secure a public mandate and form a single-party government. He, however, underscored the importance of a strong opposition for maintaining a balanced state structure. Tareq voiced optimism about the credibility of the upcoming election, saying people expect a free and acceptable vote. He also described balancing election preparations with personal grief after returning home from 17 years in exile as his biggest challenge. On women's empowerment, the BNP chief said that if elected, his party would expand access to higher education for women, introduce a family card for homemakers, and take steps to ensure women's employment opportunities and safe transportation. Police arrested Belaluddin Amir of Thakurga district Jamaat-e-Islam at Saidpur airport in Nilphamari on Tuesday after he arrived from Dhaka by air, recovering approximately Taka 50 lakh in cash from his possession. Officials said the arrest was made during a special operation conducted on the basis of confidential information. Belaluddin arrived on a Nova Air flight and law enforcers recovered the large sum of money after searching his bag. During preliminary interrogation, police said the total amount seized was estimated at around Taka 50 lakh, which is currently being recounted. Officers in charge of Saidpur police station, Abdul Sattar, confirmed the arrest and said a case is being processed in connection with the cash recovery. Two people, including an assistant presiding officer, were killed and 6 others seriously injured in a head-on collision between a mini truck and a CNG-run auto rickshaw on the Sherpur-Jamalpur highway in simultaneous area of Nadirpur Bazar in Sadar Upazila this noon. The deceased were identified as MD Rukunuzzaman and Rukun, a resident of Sharishbari Upazila in Jamalpur, and Mahfuz Akhtar, wife of M. Nirab, a resident of Katlamari area under Madarganj Upazila in Jamalpur district. According to police, the speeding mini truck, which was traveling from Sharishabari toward Sherpur Sadar, collided head-on with the CNG-run auto rickshaw. One of the victims died on the spot while the other succumbed to injuries on the way to Maimanching Medical College Hospital. 6 injured passengers were admitted to Sherpur District Sadar Hospital, where they are currently undergoing treatment. Viewers, we are taking a short break. Stay with us.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties.
Welcome back. You're watching SATV News. News from abroad. At least 10 people have been killed in a mass shooting involving a school in British Columbia on Tuesday and dozens more are injured, said police. According to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the 9 victims and the suspected gunman are dead after the shooting that took place across multiple locations in Tumbler Ridge. 6 people were found dead inside Tumbler Ridge Secondary School and another died when being taken to hospital. According to RCMP, 2 more people were found dead in a home in the community, police said. The suspected shooter was also found dead with what appears to be a self-inflicted inside the school. Police say the identities of the suspected shooter and the victims are unknown at this time. A motive for the shooting was not immediately clear. Police said they received a report of an active shooter at the Tumbler Ridge School at around 1:20 p.m. Tuesday. Aside from those killed in the shooting, 2 more victims were airlifted to a hospital with serious life-threatening injuries. According to police, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said in a statement on X, "I am devastated by today's horrific shooting in Tumbler Ridge, BC. My prayers and deepest condolences are with the families and friends who have lost loved ones to these horrific acts of violence." Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has called for national unity in the face of external threats, while insisting that his government is willing to negotiate over its nuclear program. He made these remarks while addressing a huge public ceremony in Tehran commemorating on the 47th anniversary of the founding of the Islamic Republic. Addressing the crowds in Tehran's Azadi Square, Pezeshkian called for solidarity amongst Iranians in the face of conspiracies from imperial powers. Regarding the nuclear talks, he said Iran was not seeking nuclear weapons and was ready for any kind of verification. Large crowds gathered in the capital and other cities around the country in a show of support for the government as Iran observed the 1979 anniversary amid one of the most difficult moments in the country's recent year. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump said in an interview aired on Tuesday that Iran would be foolish if it did not strike a deal with the US, adding that any deal should include no nuclear weapons, no missiles. Trump made these remarks during an interview on Fox Business Network's Kudlo program. Tehran resumed talks with Washington last week in Oman. Trump, who ordered US strikes on Tehran's nuclear sites during Israel's 12-day war with Iran last June, said that any future deal needs to be a good one.
They want to make a deal. They wouldn't talk to anybody else, but they're talking.
Russia will keep observing the missile and warhead limits in the New START nuclear treaty with the United States, which expired last week, as long as Washington continues to do the same, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Wednesday. The 2010 treaty ran out on February 5, leaving the world's 2 biggest nuclear-armed powers with no binding constraints on their strategic nuclear arsenals for the first time in more than half a century. US President Donald Trump declined a formal proposal from Russian President Vladimir Putin to voluntarily abide by the New START limits for another year. Lavrov said Moscow would stick to the limits itself for now anyway. Russia's position is that this moratorium on the side that was declared by the President Putin is still in the place, but only as long as the United States doesn't exceed the said limits. Lavrov told Parliament's lower house, the State Duma. The treaty's expiry has spurred fears of a three-way arms race involving Russia, the US and China, which has far fewer warheads than the other two countries, but is arming rapidly.
И в целом будем действовать ответственно, взвешенно на основе анализа военной политики.
Russia intends to further develop its relations with both Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Kremlin said on Wednesday after US Vice President J.D. Vance visited the two South Caucasus nations. The United States and Azerbaijan signed a strategic partnership, and Vance signed a nuclear deal with Armenia, which operates an aging Soviet-era nuclear power plant and is looking to commission a new one. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Azerbaijan and Armenia were sovereign countries who had the right to develop their own foreign policies, and that Moscow had deep mutually beneficial ties with both nations. Russia has a huge range of bilateral relations with both Baku and Yerevan, covering all possible areas. These include mutually beneficial trade and economic cooperation, mutual investments, cultural relations, and so on. Russia intends to further develop relations with its partners so that they are beneficial not only Russia, but also for them.
Огромный комплекс двусторонних отношений.
Colombia's President Gustavo Petro said on Tuesday that he had escaped what he described as assassination attempt while flying in a helicopter. Petro made the statement during a live-streamed cabinet meeting referring to an event that occurred on Monday night, when he said his helicopter could not land at its planned destination because of fears that people were going to school at it. After arriving in Cordoba, Petro did a helicopter flight over the area after heavy rains caused flooding. Petro also mentioned he ordered the retirement of a police general, accusing him of trying to sabotage his meeting with the US President Donald Trump in the White House on February 3, 2026. Since taking office in 2022, Petro has repeatedly denounced plots against him by drug trafficking organizations and criminal groups for his work against what he has called Colombia's mafias, and has said the US Drug Enforcement Administration had warned him, according to media reports. In September 2024, the then US Ambassador to Colombia, Francisco Palomeri, said they were really worried about the issue, without providing further details in an interview with the local news outlet Caracol Radio. The European Union must act to cut electricity prices to safeguard the competitiveness of its industry, the Prime Minister of Austria, the Czech Republic and Slovakia said on Tuesday, ahead of a summit on strengthening the bloc's economy. EU leaders will meet for an informal summit in a Belgian castle on Thursday to discuss ways to compete with global rivals such as China and the US. The Czech Republic and Slovakia have pushed for policies to lower energy prices to support their industry-heavy economies, and have been particularly critical of the cost of allowance that companies receive or must buy to cover their carbon output under the EU's emission trading scheme. Austrian Chancellor Christian Stocker said natural gas prices were the key of driver for power costs and should be addressed. Czech Prime Minister Andres Babis has been lobbying other governments to support capping the price of carbon allowances under the current ETS1 scheme and delaying the ETS2 scheme, which will extend costs to household heating and pressing. Two Chinese nationals are set to appear in court on Wednesday after Australian police charged them with foreign interference on grounds of covertly collecting information about the Buddhist group on behalf of a Chinese government security agency. It is the second instance of Chinese nationals being charged under foreign interference laws that Australia's introduced in 2018, and the pair became the fourth and fifth individuals so charged. The Australian Federal Police said a 25-year-old man and a 31-year-old woman allegedly worked with another Chinese woman who was charged in August to gather information about the Canberra branch of the group. Guan Yan Sita, each defendant faced a count of reckless foreign interference, carrying a maximum jail term of 15 years on the court appearance in the Australian capital. China's foreign ministry said on Wednesday that it does not interfere in other countries' internal affairs, after Australian police charged them with foreign interference on grounds of covertly collecting information about a Buddhist group on behalf of a Chinese government security agency. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said at a regular news conference that China firmly opposes using foreign interference a pretext to disrupt normal personal exchanges and cooperation between China and relevant countries, urging Australia to handle the case involving two Chinese nationals prudently and properly and ensure their legal rights. Lin added that he was not aware of specific details regarding the two Chinese citizens who are due to stand trial in Australia after police charged them with alleged foreign interference. Confrontation took place between security personnel and protesters in New Delhi on Tuesday as India's Youth Congress staged a demonstration over Prime Minister Narendra Modi's name appearing in files related to late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Demonstrators waved flags, held signs and climbed barricades that were moved in to control the crowd. India's Ministry of External Affairs earlier released a statement dismissed the mention of Modi's visit to Israel in 2017 in the new files related to Epstein, published by the U.S. Justice Department late last month. Tropical storm Gazani killed at least 9 people and injured 19 in Madagascar after battering in Indian Ocean Islands nation's east coast. The National Bureau for Risk and Disaster Management said on Wednesday, February 11. The storm made landfall near the port city of Taumasina on Tuesday, forcing the preventive displacement of 1,379 people across the Taumasina district. The Disaster Management Bureau said in its first situation report, rising sea levels and heavy rains submerged streets in Taumasina, white houses, collapsing roof blown off and widespread power outages reported, the Bureau said. Officials closed the schools across Atsinana region on Tuesday and prepared emergency shelters as the storm approached by Wednesday. Gazani had weakened to a moderate tropical storm with average winds of 80 kilometers per hour and was moving west at 22 kilometers per hour, according to Madagascar's Meteorological Service. Meanwhile, President Colonel Michael visited affected areas on Wednesday morning, where streets remained littered with debris and floodwaters continued to flow. Before ending, we go through the headlines again. Thirteen national parliamentary elections and referendum tomorrow. Nearly 1 million law enforcers deployed across country. Transparency remains a cornerstone of EC's election management, says CEC Nasir. Reaffirms commitment to peaceful, credible elections. BNP confident in forming government alone, Tarak Rahman tells DW. You're up to date with our top stories so far here on SATV. And to know the latest news, visit www.satv.tv. Stay with us.